In a world where the average person spends over 2 hours daily scrolling through social media feeds, we've become digital citizens of platforms that didn't exist just 2 decades ago. Behind the glossy interfaces and seamless experiences lies a complex web of psychological, social, and technological forces that shape our thoughts, behaviors, and relationships in ways we rarely notice. Today, over 4.9 billion people worldwide use social media. That's more than half the global population connected through invisible digital threads. But what happens when we look beneath the surface of likes, shares, and comments? This documentary explores the hidden mechanisms of social media, the unseen influences that affect our mental health, manipulate our perceptions, spread misinformation, foster addiction, and transform our most intimate relationships. The story of social media isn't simply about technology. It's about human psychology meeting algorithmic design in an unprecedented experiment playing out in real time across billions of minds. Join us as we pull back the digital curtain to reveal what's really happening when we tap that icon on our screens. Part 1. The psychological impact. Social media platforms were designed to connect us, but research increasingly shows they're changing how we see ourselves and others in profound ways. A 2025 study published in the Journal of Technology and Behavioral Science found that 70% of young adults experience negative self-comparison after just 20 minutes of social media use. Social media platforms are popular venues for sharing personal experiences, seeking information, and offering peer-to-peer support, notes Dr. John Naslund of Harvard Medical School, but numerous studies highlight risks for mental health. Every time we scroll through carefully curated highlights of others' lives, our brains process these images as reality, rather than the selective snapshots they truly are. This phenomenon, known as the highlight reel effect, creates an artificial standard against which we measure our unfiltered lives. Dr. Jacqueline Sperling from McLean Hospital explains, even if you remove the likes, there continue to be opportunities for comparisons and feedback. People still can compare themselves to others. The constant pursuit of validation through metrics like likes, shares, and comments has created what psychologists call a social validation feedback loop, where our self-worth becomes increasingly tied to digital approval. For teenagers and young adults whose identities are still forming, this external validation system can be particularly damaging, contributing to rising rates of anxiety and depression. What makes this impact so insidious is how normal it feels. The psychological effects accumulate gradually, often below our conscious awareness. The platforms themselves are designed to maximize engagement through psychological triggers that keep us coming back, regardless of whether the experience benefits our mental well-being. Part 2. Algorithmic manipulation. Behind every social media feed lies a sophisticated algorithm, a set of rules that determines exactly what content you see and when you see it. These algorithms aren't neutral observers. They're designed with specific goals that may not align with your best interests. Studies in the UK and several other countries show that the forms of algorithmic selection offered by search engines, social media, and other digital platforms generally lead to slightly more diverse news use, reports the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism. However, this diversity comes with a catch. Algorithms primarily optimize for engagement, not enlightenment or accuracy. The content that triggers strong emotional reactions, particularly outrage, fear, or amazement, receives preferential treatment in your feed because it keeps you scrolling longer. This creates what researchers call filter bubbles, personalized information ecosystems that reflect and reinforce our existing beliefs and preferences. Inside these bubbles, we encounter fewer challenging viewpoints and more content that confirms what we already think, a phenomenon known as confirmation bias. When defined as a bounded, enclosed media space that has the potential to both magnify the messages delivered within it and insulate them from rebuttal, Studies estimate that between 6 and 8% of the public inhabit politically partisan online echo chambers. While this percentage may seem small, these highly engaged users often become the most vocal and influential voices online, amplifying polarization across the broader digital landscape. The real danger of algorithmic manipulation isn't mind control, it's the subtle narrowing of our information horizons without our awareness or consent. As technology ethicist Tristan Harris puts it, it's not about the technology being evil, it's about the business model that makes more money the more time you spend, the more attention you give, the more you're persuaded. Part 3. Disinformation. In today's digital landscape, misinformation spreads 6 times faster than factual information, according to research from the American Psychological Association. This isn't merely a technological problem, it's deeply rooted in human psychology. People are more likely to share misinformation when it aligns with personal identity or social norms, when it is novel, and when it elicits strong emotions, explains the APA's research on misinformation spread. Social media platforms amplify these natural tendencies through algorithms that reward emotional engagement rather than accuracy. Unlike traditional media with editorial standards and fact-checking processes, social platforms allow information to spread peer-to-peer with minimal oversight. This creates what researchers call information cascades, where seeing others share content makes us more likely to share it ourselves, regardless of its veracity. The consequences extend far beyond individual misconceptions. They shape public discourse, influence elections, and even impact public health outcomes, as we witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Echo chambers bind and isolate online communities with similar views, which aids the spread of falsehoods and impedes the spread of factual corrections, notes the APA's research. What makes this particularly concerning is how disinformation exploits our cognitive biases, our tendency to seek information that confirms existing beliefs and reject information that challenges them. Once false information takes root in our minds, it becomes remarkably resistant to correction, a phenomenon psychologists call the continued influence effect. The business model of social media platforms, which prioritizes engagement over accuracy, creates little incentive to solve this problem at its source. Part 4. Addiction. The average smartphone user touches their phone 2,617 times per day, a statistic that reveals the profound hold these devices have on our attention. This isn't accidental. Social media platforms employ the same psychological principles used in casino gambling to keep us engaged. When the outcome is unpredictable, the behavior is more likely to repeat, explains Dr. Jacqueline Sperling from McLean Hospital. The idea of a potential future reward keeps the machines in use. The same goes for social media sites. The unpredictable rewards of social media, not knowing how many likes a picture will get, who will comment, or what new content might appear with the next refresh, trigger dopamine release in our brains. This creates what neuroscientists call a compulsion loop, a cycle of action, variable reward, and reinforcement that can lead to addictive behavior patterns. Former tech executives have publicly acknowledged designing these platforms to exploit psychological vulnerabilities. Sean Parker, Facebook's founding president, admitted, "The thought process was, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible?" The consequences of this design philosophy include decreased attention spans, disrupted sleep patterns, and anxiety when separated from our devices, what researchers call nomophobia, no mobile phone phobia. Perhaps most concerning is how these addictive qualities affect developing brains, with adolescents particularly vulnerable to the dopamine-driven reward systems. Studies show that excessive social media use in teenagers correlates with increased risk of depression, anxiety, and loneliness, creating a troubling cycle where negative emotions drive further use. As Dr. Anna Lemb, addiction expert at Stanford University, puts it, we've accidentally created a world where the most readily available drugs are digital. They're cheap, accessible, and socially acceptable. Part 5. Impact on human relationship. Perhaps the most profound hidden effect of social media is how it's fundamentally altering the nature of human connection. Research from Penn State University reveals that social media is changing the way our brains form social connections, creating new patterns of interaction that differ significantly from traditional face-to-face relationships. The influence of social media on interpersonal relationships is also influenced by individuals' social media dependence, usage habits, and other factors, notes a 2023 study published in the International Journal of Behavioral Medicine and Communication. The paradox of modern connectivity is that while we have more ways to communicate than ever before, many people report feeling increasingly isolated and lonely. This phenomenon, which sociologists call alone together, describes how we can be physically present but mentally absent, scrolling through feeds while sitting across from friends or family. The constant availability of digital connection has created new social norms and expectations. Immediate responses, constant availability, and the pressure to maintain digital personas across multiple platforms. These expectations can create what researchers call social media fatigue, emotional exhaustion from managing our online presence and relationships. For romantic relationships, social media introduces unique challenges, from phubbing, phone snubbing, to comparison with idealized relationships portrayed online. Studies show that excessive social media use correlates with decreased relationship satisfaction and increased jealousy among partners. Perhaps most concerning is how digital communication is replacing the rich, multisensory experience of face-to-face interaction, potentially affecting our capacity for empathy and deep connection. As MIT professor Sherry Turkle observes, we're getting used to a new way of being alone together. People want to be with each other, but also elsewhere, connected to all the different places they want to be. As we've explored throughout this documentary, social media's hidden effects extend far beyond casual entertainment. They reach into our psychology, shape our worldview, influence our relationships, and even alter our neurochemistry. The platforms that promise to connect humanity have delivered on that promise, but with unexpected consequences that we're only beginning to understand. This isn't about rejecting technology or demonizing social media companies. It's about developing awareness of how these tools affect us and reclaiming agency in our digital lives. Small changes in how we use these platforms can make significant differences in their impact on our well-being. From setting time limits and turning off notifications to periodically disconnecting and prioritizing face-to-face connections. Digital literacy, understanding how algorithms work, recognizing misinformation, and being conscious of psychological triggers, is becoming as essential as traditional literacy in navigating our modern world. The future of social media doesn't have to be determined solely by engagement metrics and profit motives. As users, citizens, and communities, we have the power to demand more humane technology. Perhaps the most important insight is that these platforms are tools, powerful ones, but tools nonetheless, and the responsibility for how we use them ultimately rests with each of us. As we close this exploration of social media's hidden effects, we invite you to look up from your screen, engage with the world around you, and consider, how will you reshape your relationship with technology? The answer to that question may determine not just your personal well-being, but the kind of society we collectively create in this unprecedented digital age.